Hi there, let's paint some clouds. I'm Wilson Bickford, certified artist and instructor, and I'm going to show you how to paint some wet into wet clouds. These will actually be pretty realistically rendered. They're pretty easy if you don't overwork them. What I've done up to this point is I took a 2-inch Creative Mark primer brush and I put some white, titanium white, and a mixture of Grumbacher Alkyd medium. So I had a thin white base coat to blend my blue into. So I've just mocked up a basic background sky here. I did let it grade, get a little lighter, adhering to the principle of aerial perspective. So it gets a little lighter as it goes into the distance. Your horizon line obviously would be down in here depending on what you have in your particular painting as you're doing this. But this lesson is about clouds, so I didn't worry about that too much. I'm going to use a fan brush. This is just a stiff bristle Langnickel number 4 hog bristle, stiff bristle brush. If you look down here at the palette, I'm going to take some white. And by the way, I used ultramarine blue for the sky here. I'm using Charvin paints today, which are great. I'm going to take some titanium zinc white with ultramarine blue, a speck of Naphthol deep red, and get kind of a purplish, bluish lavender tone going on. What I'm thinking of is a shadow underneath clouds. Like you got a strong light source coming from above. I'm going to sneak just a touch of Van Dyke brown into that to gray it. Now I don't know what I've got until I put it on my canvas. This is a lot like making soup, so you have to taste it and see what you're going to get. I'm not sure that's going to be dark enough. It actually looks pretty good for what I want. So I hit it right the first time. You don't always hit it right the first time. Notice I'm chiseling that brush right up nice and sharp. And what you need to do is just kind of get an idea of the flow and the shape of the cloud in your mind. This is what I'm seeing in my head as the top of the cloud. Now it won't stay that exact shape, but I'm just getting a contour in mind. And I take the corner of the brush and I just stir little circles, and you'll see that I turn my wrist and elbow different angles. I'm going to come back and add highlight on the top of this. So this is not what you're going to see in the end, but I am kind of choosing a shape here. And I'm thinking more of a big billowy, fluffy cumulus type of cloud. And then I'm just going to kind of fill the rest of it in. Now this is going to be the shadow and the depth within the cloud. What brings it to life are the highlights. I usually bring this down to an even level, maybe somewhere, because they tend to flatten out a little bit on the bottom. It doesn't have to be perfectly straight with the canvas or anything like that, but bring it down to an even level. Scrub it in. Not a lot of paint on the canvas at this point. I'm scrubbing in a thin layer. I'm going to wipe this brush off. And usually I like to fade the ends out. The ends will take care of themselves if you let them. If you just leave a real hard edge there, it's kind of distracting. I like to feather them out and lose the end. And then I come back and I just kind of use a big flip-floppy crisscross like this just to fade out the bottom as well. Clouds will tend to roll underneath and away from you, so they usually have a softer edge on the bottom. The exception to that rule is if you got a sunset and the light is below, then you get stronger light underneath the cloud, but this isn't the case with this sample. I'm thinking that the light's coming from above. As clouds recede in the distance, they tend to get a little flatter and stringier. So I'm going to go a little bit smaller shape down here, and I'm just kind of scuffing. I roll the brush every now and then for a height to get it a little higher here and there, but you just want it to be very loose and random and believable like clouds are. Clouds are very wispy. They're the freest things in nature. They're ever changing, and you literally have to kind of paint them that way to make them convincing. Now see how this area is looking far away already. That's what you want to shoot for. This is linear perspective. The clouds lower on the canvas will be the ones that are getting farther and farther away. Now here's the fun part. I'm going to wash this brush out. I've got some Turpenoid here in a brush washer. Just going to wash this brush right out. Dry it off. I usually like to put an intermediate color. I don't go right in with white, but I'm going to start with white, and maybe I'll take a little touch of the Naphthol red deep. That's way too much, a little too pinkish, so I'll add more white. But I want to warm it up a little bit. A lot of times you'll get some warmth in the clouds, be it yellow or it's kind of a pink. Just something a little warmer before I go in with that stark white. And a lot of artists don't use stark white, plain white. I do. To me, that's the most intense brightness I can get, and I will use white in certain circumstances, especially clouds. I've got this off white with the red and the white, and I'm thinking the light is coming from here, so anywhere logically it's going to hit on these sections of this cloud. And see, even though I've got this shape established with the dark, I don't have to adhere to that. It was just a guideline. I can go above and beyond that shape. Here's the trick. As it picks up the blue off the canvas, I rotate it on the other corner where there's more white before I have to wipe it out and reload. Here's the key. Once I reach that point, wipe your brush off, and I can't leave that distinct edge between the shadow and the highlight. So I come back and I just kind of roll that all together. That's where it comes together, is where you just blend that. I wipe the brush off because I picked up a lot of the blue. And again, if the light's coming from here, maybe it's going to hit, it probably won't hit on the back side here because that would be in shadow. But I kind of come over here and I'll put a little bit in there. Same thing, wipe the brush off, blend it all together a little bit. Now this is a pretty big cloud, so there's probably going to be other little facets in here that you're going to see. And this is not the final highlight. I'm going to come back and really jazz this up in just a moment. But I have to visualize, where could there be another little tuft or puff, whatever you want to call it, in the cloud. Maybe there's one right there. If you check out my rocks video, my free art lesson, you'll see that I did the same thing with the rocks. You have to envision where there might be another plane, and you bring it out with a highlight. And that gives you depth and form. And you've got more than what you've actually painted in there. You can actually add more dimension to it. Got a broken off brush bristle there that I'll take out of there. But the key is fade away the bottom of each highlight area that you put in there so it just doesn't sit there. It connects it. If you blend the bottom edge away, it hooks it into that shadow. Maybe there'd be a little touch over here. Again, I'm softening the bottom edge of that. Maybe on the top of this one there's a little touch. You can do less as you go into those clouds that are farther and farther away and lower on the horizon. But I just kind of touch the tops of those a little bit. I'll see how that's looking pretty good. Now watch this. I'm going to wash the brush, and I'm going to come back with straight white this time. And like I said, a lot of artists don't like to use straight white. I do. That's up to you. It's not the colors you use. Those are your choice. I could put a little touch of yellow in this if I wanted to. Just something, I want something lighter and brighter than what I've already got here. So I'm going to come up and I'm going to put a little extra brightness right on the top edges of these. And the same rules apply. I'm going to kind of work it down into the previous color. So see how that gives it that little extra snap? You always want that little extra pizzazz in your painting. My motto is, it's easy to make a boring painting, but it's more challenging to make an interesting one. And the difference between the two are usually just a couple little minor tweaks that a lot of people tend to overlook or don't want to bother. Just that one little extra mile to go, a couple extra steps. See how that little extra white just really sets that off nicely. And you got some really nice believable clouds. Obviously, within the context of a painting, you're going to have something in here, whether it's a hill or whatever. You'll see that if you put a tree line or something in here, it really pushes that sky back. It takes its rightful spot, makes it look much better. So depending on what painting you're doing and what you got in here, obviously it's going to change. But that's how you would put the background sky in. I hope you have fun with this. This is so easy if you don't overwork them. So just get loose with the brush and let it happen for you. Take care. Check out wilsonbickford.com, and I'll catch you further on down the road.